Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. It is a pleasure to be talking to you. So, got an experience this morning. It's not a very long one, so hopefully won't take up too much of your time. So let's get into it straight away today. This one, before I start, this one was, I've had a quick skim through it. It's a little bit different in terms of it being like they have the experience and then they kind of wake up the next morning and are able to recall it rather than them actually retelling the story as it actually happens. If that makes sense. If not, let's just listen and you can make your own minds up and try and figure out what I just said and if that makes sense or not. So anyway, let's get into this experience. It's by Sandra P and it is a probable NDE according to the title of this webpage. So let's listen. I was headed to a dentist's appointment at 9:30 a.m. I was driving a two-door Volkswagen. It was raining and I was travelling approximately 45 miles per hour. About a mile from my country home were some railroad tracks that I always crossed over. Off to the right were some dense woods and the tracks were slightly overgrown with brush. There was no railroad sign whatsoever at the crossing. In fact, we had never even seen a train go by. As I approached the tracks, all of a sudden I heard a train whistle. I looked to the right and in horror, I saw a large train coming towards me at full speed. I immediately slammed on my brakes, but I knew it was too late. I could feel the car sliding onto the tracks. All I could think of was my two boys and how I would not be there anymore to love them. I knew my life was over. The next thing I remember is waking up in the emergency room, confused. I could feel blood running down my face. A doctor had shaved part of my head and was suturing the wound. I learned later that I had received 32 stitches with no medication. As I lay there, I kept going in and out of consciousness. Another physician came in and told me to look at my foot. It was black. He said he had to set it now or I would lose it. I also remember seeing a bone protruding out of my lower leg. I had an open compound fat fracture. My foot had been torn off and was being held on only by my Achilles tendon. While the doctor was setting my foot, I passed out and awoke several hours later. I saw that I had a long leg cast on. And in spite of being heavily medicated, I was in severe pain. My family was at my bedside. I was still feeling confused. The next morning, I awoke and started putting together what had happened. I finally realized I had been in an accident, but I had this overwhelming feeling of love. Not human love, but indescribable love, unconditional love and acceptance. A spiritual love. Love that is combined with peace, joy and acceptance. Truly, there are no words in my vocabulary I can use to describe this overwhelming feeling. I am not humanly capable of expressing this feeling because there are no earthly words in which to do so. I remember that God had told me it was not only my time to die, because I had more love to give, and that is the only reason for our existence, to give love. That is all that matters in this world. the amount of love and compassion we can share. I was also filled with his love and a knowledge of how very much he loves us. There is no feeling in this life as strong as how he adores us, not just me, all of us. I felt like I was invincible. I had a message from above. I had a glimpse of the indescribable compassion he has for all of us children. I felt as though I had to get out of my bed and yell up and down the halls. It's okay, he loves all of us. You have no idea how much you are loved. As I lay in the hospital bed, I wasn't sad. I knew whatever the physical outcome from my accident was, something special had happened to me that made my life complete forever. If I died, it was okay. I was not afraid of anything. I was filled with his love. I called my best friend who knew me completely and told her about my experience. She cried and cried. I knew she believed me. I was very careful about sharing my experience because I had a head injury and they might attribute it to that. There is no way that injury had anything to do with my experience. The indescribable emotions that I was filled with could not be explained away. I knew God saved my life. I was in a Volkswagen and was hit by a train. I was pushed about a block down the tracks and then my car rolled over into a ditch. Paramedics had to pry my car open to get me out. God, who I call Creator, told me it was not time for me to die. I had to give more love in this world. The main reason for our existence is to give love. But the way he loves us, we can't compare anything to this earth in this earthly existence. Eventually, I had 4 surgeries on my leg and my ankle was fused. I divorced my abusive husband and got remarried. I started a healthcare newspaper and several other endeavours as an entrepreneur. I knew I would never fail because employment and money weren't it. It's all about love. My experience changed my life forever. I know we are here to give love and to help one another. I have tried to share the indescribable, overwhelming, unconditional acceptance and adoration of God has for all of us. I feel sad that scientists nowadays will never even research this kind of experience in which I was so loved. And that's the end of Sandra's experience. This one says happened back in 1983. So maybe you get a bit of an idea now of what I meant at the start by it not being your traditional near-death experience. There's not much substance to what actually occurred after she had a train accident, and it goes straight into more of the after effects of an NDE. And often when people do have a near-death experience, they can experience this unearthly type love energy within them after they come back, and that can last for a little while, a few days, few months, until it generally diminishes and they become re-immersed in the normal energy that we associate with being human and the fluctuations that come with that. So she is, let's have a look. I mean, there's not much to this one, so I really don't need to put much commentary into it, but we will anyway. This one happened because of a train crash. I've never had an experience where there has been someone hit by a train, and I've crossed many of these railway road crossings myself. They're pretty common in regional Australia. There's just a bit of sounds like similar to what she's describing here, just a crossing in the middle of nowhere. She says it's in the country, near her country home. She's lived there for a while, but never actually seen a train. So she approaches it, I guess, with a little bit, with less caution than she probably should. But yeah, these crossings in regional Australia, generally they have lights on them at least. But yeah, I guess if you're going fast enough, it'll be pretty easy to just zip past it and miss it. But they generally don't have those barriers that come down. So I'm just so she says that in this situation there's absolutely no railroad sign at all. So it's like a track that appears out of nowhere. And I guess if you'd lived out there for a while and never seen a train go by, you probably would kind of brush it off as a track that's no longer in service. So maybe that was her thought process. But yeah, anyway, she's getting closer to this track and she's feeling pretty confident that she can go through. But then she looks to her right and she sees this huge train coming at her at full speed. And obviously, it's too late for her to stop. So I don't know. In that situation, do you put your foot on the accelerator instead? But I guess it's one of those split-second decisions where you hindsight's a wonderful thing, and sounds like she chooses to brake, and obviously the train cleans her up. And she says, and I'll stop there and say, for most experiences, this is when they start talking about the tunnel, the light, and whatever else happens in their experience. But for her, she just goes straight to this experience of waking up in the emergency room. So no commentary on any near-death type event there. She just wakes up in the hospital room. She's got blood running down her face. She's got a doctor sitting next to her and he's stitching up a head wound. And she says that it was a large wound because it received 32 stitches. And she says there was no painkillers to go along with that. And she was just in this state of drifting in and out of consciousness. And then she looks down at her foot, sees it's black, and a bone sticking out towards her ankle, and says that her foot has been not totally torn off, but pretty much all of it's torn off apart from the Achilles tendon, which is holding the foot on. So the doctors are working on that, trying to get her foot saved. And one of the doctors says, if you don't get this set now, your foot will probably have to be amputated. So, it's a pretty confronting situation to be waking up to, and that's to put it mildly. 1 minute you're driving along, almost home, and then the next you're waking up in an emergency room and you're about to lose your foot, and you're getting your head stitched up. It's this life, you just, I guess, never know what is around the corner. And situations like this that's happened to Sandra happen all the time. But for her, it turns out that this accident is a bit of a life-changing event, because then the next morning she wakes up and she's got her normal consciousness back and starts putting what happened to her together. She can't even remember at first where she is or why she's in a different environment to that which she's used to, but she then it clicks. Oh yeah, I had that accident, that train hit me, and then she kind of jumps out of her mind and starts to realize she has this energy within her that she hasn't experienced before, because she says the way she's feeling is just pure love, and it's not human love. It's a love that can't. There's words that can't describe the way she's feeling. She says it's a spiritual love. It's a love that's combined with peace, joy, and acceptance. And there's just no vocabulary to describe this overwhelming feeling, she says. So I'm kind of thinking, is this potentially some kind of medication she's on that is making her feel this way? But that's the skeptic in me saying that, and the faith-driven person that I try to be. But let's face it, that's keeping faith in this world is a very difficult thing. Like when I'm reading these experiences, it's easy to be more connected to God and to believe that these sort of miracles happen. But then, you same for all of us. You're listening to a nice near-death experience, or you're at a church service, or you're I don't know, you're connected to the spiritual world in some way, and life is good. It's it feels like this is a nice place to be in this planet. But then you walk outside the door and you're faced with the chaos of this planet, and the hardships and challenges that are out there, and that faith or connection that you had to God, spirit, to some form of higher being is quickly eroded. And there's it's a difficult thing to grasp onto for a permanent basis, this connection or faith in God. And for me, when I'm reading this experience like that I'll be honest, that's kind of what is popping into my head. That is this a drug-fueled type feeling she's getting. But the way she's writing this and describing it, and how it aligns with other near-death experiences that aren't drug-related at all, and says to me that this is a legitimate experience that Sandra is having. And it's just a little bit frustrating for me reading this and not getting a little bit more information in terms of what actually happened as soon as that train ran into her. Was there any tunnel or light, like I said at the start, or was it totally blackout to her, where there was nothing to remember? And it literally was a situation where there was no near-death experience, but she, for whatever reason, gets this afterglow and these after effects of this joyful bliss. And I guess, when I think about it, even all the drugs in the world would not put you in a state of peace and joy and acceptance. You would still be overly I'd be very concerned about my injuries and being in hospital, and I guess a little bit angry at the world for the situation I was in. But for her, it's just total acceptance and unconditional love, and quite content with her situation, even though it is a situation most of us would find very undesirable. So she's filled, she says, she's not only filled with this love, and she uses the word his for, I guess that's a very religious, biblical take on God being the Father and all that sort of thing. I think if you've listened to this show before, you will know that I tend to avoid giving God a gender. I don't think that God is a him or a her. I guess it just makes it easier in some ways to use one of those pronouns to describe God. In some ways, just the way our language is, it's easier to say his love or her love. So she's using the word his, so I'll stick with that. But yeah, she's not saying she's just feeling his love. She's saying that she's also filled with a knowledge of how much he loves all of us. So sounds like she's getting a little bit of wisdom and information here as well. But again, this story is so brief, it's hard to decipher exactly what she's trying to relay to us. But yeah, this is a very interesting way of describing a person who has just arrived in hospital and should be feeling very sorry for herself. But she, this is why I think it's more than drugs that are talking here. She goes on to say, and she says this with an exclamation mark, how he adores us, not just me, all of us. She feels invincible. She feels as though she's received messages from above, but she doesn't go into much detail there. She just says, I had a message from above. I had a glimpse of the indescribable compassion he has for all of us. And she is so ecstatic by this information, feeling, experience. She says that she wants to get out of bed and run up and down the hallways and scream it out to everyone. And just tell everyone it's going to be okay. You might be in hospital, but God loves you. And that gives you an idea, I guess, of the profound effect this love is having on her. And she wants to share it. She wants to spread it all around. And this world is a weird place, isn't it? Like, why is God, this loving energy, but at the same time, it seems so removed from all of our experiences, apart from the odd person who gets a spiritually transformative experience like this lady, Sandra. Most of us go through this life without having contact with these extreme loving energies that emanate from the universe, and it's difficult to get our heads around when most of us don't actually get to live what Sandra goes through. So I guess this is where faith comes in, and then I start personally questioning, why doesn't everyone get experiences like this? Why is it so hard to connect with the source and to God, and why is it so intangible and difficult to experience, and why is it so random in terms of who gets these spiritual experiences and who doesn't? It's baffling to me. I personally have had many, so I don't know why I have been given that privilege, but anyway, I have. And if I had read this experience that I'm reading to you right now, I would have thought that it's probably down to her brain injury or some sort of medication she's on, and that's why she's saying all this stuff. But based on my personal experiences, I can really relate to what she's saying here. I've experienced similar things, not through near-death type event, just I've had these overwhelming feelings of love myself, but they were very brief, only for sort of 10 seconds or so. And yeah, that's part of the reason I want to share what's happened to me, the same reason that she wants to run up and down the hallways and tell people about God's love. But I wouldn't say what happened to me was evidence of God's love for all of us. But then again, if it's happened to me, it can happen to other people. And do I attribute that feeling of love that I had for those few seconds as love from God? I don't know. It was definitely otherworldly, and it was not drug induced. It was not a physical type experience. It was definitely some sort of contact with another dimension, and it definitely piqued my interest, and big reason why I'm reading this experience for you guys right now is because I wanted to get to the bottom of it, and part of this search for me has involved researching near-death experiences, because I can kind of relate what happened to me to what a lot of people are saying, even though what happened to me never came about because of a brush with death. It was just I was in a dark place, and then a light type, I wouldn't even say being, it was just a love sensation. It happened, and something I'd never experienced before. It happened a couple of times, and it was something that I had no idea what it was, but obviously, as I just said, the more I read these experiences, the more I can kind of relate to what they're saying, and it kind of proves to me what occurred to me is not an unusual thing to happen, but it is a common occurrence. But going back to how I started this little sidetrack discussion, and why God is so hidden, and why this proof of otherworldly energy, dimensions, beings only gets proved to some people and not others, is a head scratcher. And I don't know why that is, but having said that, I think that that experience of God is available to everyone, and I think you can see God everywhere if you look hard enough, or you don't really have to look hard at all. All you have to do is walk up and look at the stars at night, and look at this universe we're in, and I think you might find yourself connecting to the Creator when you look at that, and the awe and wonder of this universe and galaxy and planet, and the body you're in even, is pretty miraculous. And that's the way I find myself grounding, when I lose that faith, I just try to focus on things like that, and detach myself from the drama of what's happening in this crazy world we're all living in. Miraculous as it is, it's still full of challenges that are not always easy to navigate. Anyway, back to Sandra's experience. She's in this state of just joy, and wants to share. She terms it as God's love with everyone, so she's running up and down the halls. Well, she says she wants to, but obviously she can't because she's in hospital, and probably feels a little bit reluctant to do that as well, just from an ego fear type of situation, fear of looking a little bit crazy if she did that. So she's there, she's just lying in bed. She's begun her recovery process, and she is just in this state of bliss. She doesn't care what really happens to her anymore. She says she knows she's had this accident. She knows she's had this spiritually transformative experience, and she feels complete. Like she feels she doesn't need to do anything. She just is really, this, what has happened to her has changed her. Not so much what occurred to her physically, but more this intervention from God and her newfound connection to this being. So she calls a friend, and a friend believes her, but this is all she is willing to share her experience with at this time, for the reasons I've already touched on, because that is that if she did start telling everyone, people would just tell her that's because of your banged up head or the medication that she might have been on. But she says she doesn't mention that. That's just my 2 cents in terms of what would be potential barriers to her wanting to share this information. And you got to remember, this one occurred back in 1983 as well. So this was before near-death experiences were, I wouldn't say they're mainstream now, but I think most people have heard of them. But back in 1983, yeah, maybe not so much. And if this sort of thing happened today, maybe she would be a little bit braver and more, keener to share what happened and have a bit more knowledge as to what had actually occurred to her. So she just continues to, in this last paragraph, try to explain to us what exactly she has experienced. And she says that these indescribable emotions of love are just totally filling her whole being, and it's just an energy she can't explain, and she's more than happy to experience it. She's not trying to get rid of it. She's just trying to understand exactly what has happened to her. Not the crash, but this spiritual energy she's experiencing. And the only way she can really rationalize it, I guess, or define it in our words, in a human way, is to say that God saved her life. She was in a Volkswagen and she thought she was going to die, but here she is waking up in a hospital feeling better than she did before she had the crash, even though her body is severely damaged. And then it's a little bit funny because this next line, she says that God, who she calls the Creator, told her it was not her time to die. And this is a little bit frustrating, like I said before, because I'd like to hear some more detail. Did this occur while she was unconscious, straight after the train hit her? Or is this one of these conversations she's had with God after she's woken up after the crash? Was it a conversation? What did that conversation entail? Was there anything else shared? But yeah, she says that God told her it was not her time to die, and this is because she had to go back and to give more love in this world. She says the main reason for our existence is to give love. But the love that we give other people in this dimension is different to the way God loves us. And yeah, I've touched on this many times before. This love we have in this planet is great and necessary and reduces the suffering, but at the same time, it's different kind of love to what is experienced in the other dimension, because I think in the other dimension love is pretty much all there is, and it's a lot more stronger and a lot more intense, whereas here we put conditions on love. You love me and then I'll love you back, sort of thing. It's more unconditional over there, and difficult to compare, but at the same time, I guess if we listen to what these experiences tell us, this is the way to a more peaceful existence, and that is to love our fellow humans and the planet in general. So she just goes on to kind of explain what happens after this crash. Fast forwards a little bit. She says she has 4 surgeries on her leg in the end, and that the ankle was fused. She ends up divorcing her abusive husband and getting remarried. Now, we often hear this happen when someone has a near-death experience. They just become different people, and one of the first things to go is they end their relationship. They often change their jobs, they change their career, And this is what this lady does. She she ends her relationship with her abusive husband, and then decides to start a healthcare newspaper, and also several other endeavors as an entrepreneur. And she says she does this with no fear. She just jumps in and goes for it. She doesn't really have a fear of failure, because her newfound outlook on life is that, she might as well give what she's passionate about a go, because if it fails, it doesn't really matter. It's just employment and it's just money, and they're not the main things to be concerned about in this life. She says it's all about love. It's all about helping each other, giving someone a helping hand up, and everything else is just secondary. And this is how her spiritually transformative experience has changed her. And she says that this accident has led to her becoming this new person that has changed her direction completely. And she says that the experience taught her that all we're here to do, the whole purpose of this planet, is to give love and to help one another. And she feels blessed because she has had this experience of the divine, and feels that this was her proof from God to share that this overwhelming unconditional and adoration God has for all of us. Because it happened to her, then therefore we are all in the same boat. It doesn't have to be such an extreme experience for us to believe this, I guess, is what she's saying, because she's no different to you and me, and just because she had this experience doesn't mean that the same thing not only could occur to us, but is what is waiting for us when we all cross over. She ends by saying she's a little bit sad these days because scientists haven't researched this kind of experience in which she was so loved. I don't know if this was written in 1983 when it happened, or if it's more of a recent addition, but I think near-death experiences have been researched quite thoroughly now, but I often wonder, can scientists actually measure a soul, or can they ever prove God's existence? And my answer to that is, it's probably no, or not the way I see science at the moment. But there's definitely a place for science in terms of us understanding more, and probably can help us understand God a little bit better. But you've got to remember that we're using such limited tools. We're human beings. We're, I guess, highly evolved monkeys that are using words and very primitive forms of technology. Obviously, it's getting better all the time in terms of artificial intelligence coming in these days and making us smarter, and we are getting better and better at accumulating knowledge and explaining the way the universe works. But I think it probably reaches a point where you just have to take that leap of faith and have to believe that God is love. And although in this planet it can be hard to believe that is the case with all the inequity and suffering and darkness that this planet is plagued with, but for whatever reason, there seems to be a higher power that is there for us if we need it, and does love us. And for whatever reason, we are here right now, and all we can do is try to seek that God and try to connect with it, and use it to our advantage to navigate our way through this experience, because look, we all need it, and science is never going to give us all the answers. I don't think this other dimension is another level of intelligence and complexity that I think our human words intelligence are pale in comparison. It's like chalk and cheese, and maybe one day humans will get there, but I think it's going to take a lot of integration from the spiritual side of us to truly understand it. And I think science and religion or spirituality is going to have to kind of go hand in hand in terms of navigating and explaining the origins and the reason for this creation and the reason for our existence. But that's that's just my opinion. Maybe I got that all wrong, but yeah, that's just a gut feel I have. But yeah, at the end of the day, I guess I just choose to believe that there's a God, and look, I do that through reflecting on my own experiences and look at my own journey, and we all are on that path to going back to God one way or another, in my opinion. It's just a matter of time before we all get there. It's going to be a different journey for all of us. Some of us won't get there in this human life. It'll take us to cross over to reconnect with that, and others will have more success or luck or guidance in finding God for whatever reason. It's just the way it is, and I can't explain it. We're all on an individual journey, I guess, is probably the best way of looking at it. But thank you for joining me for that little experience from Sandra. It was it was a short experience, and like I usually say, I like to read the ones that have a bit of God in it and have a bit of love in it, and they're the ones that I find give me the most joy, and hopefully you the same. But it's they're all slightly unique, these experiences, and and I am very grateful for Sandra for sharing it. So thank you for listening. I will talk to you next week, and don't forget, I love you all. See you then.